Hey guys, welcome to Out of the Ordinary. I'm your host Mikey, back again. Yeah, I guess last time I was bombarded by Lavender Jones, and yeah. So, um, a couple of announcements to get by here. Tomorrow, Aka will be interviewing Vice Versa. Yes, that's right, Vice Versa. So don't forget to tune into that. Don't forget, guys, that voting for the costume contest is till the 20th, and the announcements will be on the dang. Now I forgot. It's going to be announced by Root Speed Red. um, okay, so here, right here, look. Read the ticker. Thank you for that. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Aka. Hi, Kari Sanders. Okay, so what I'm going to get to right now is Herman Webster Mudgett. Y'all might know him as Dr. H. Holmes. He was an American serial killer. Holmes trapped, tortured, and murdered possibly hundreds of guests in his Chicago hotel, which he opened in 1893's World's Fair. The case was notorious in its time and received wide publicity via a series of articles in William Rudolph's Hearst newspaper. Interest in Holmes' crimes revived in 2003. The publication is best-selling book about him, The Devil in the White City. And so Steve the Cat's in here. Hello, Mr. the Cat. Although Holmes is sometimes referred as America's first serial killer, his crimes occurred after those of others such as Tom Neal Cream, Austin the Axe Murderer, and the Bloody Benders. He was born in Glymanton, New Hampshire, son of Levi Horton Mudgett and his wife. Formerly the Odette Page Price, his early criminal careers was based on fraud and forgery, including the cure for alcoholism, real estate scams, and a machine that purported to make natural gas from water. Holmes earned a doctor's degree from the University of Michigan. Hey, Maud, what's going on? So it says, we have been to Hearst Castle. It's quite a sight. Oh, wow, really? Yeah. You got to show me pictures of those. I hear we're talking about a handsome douche canoe tonight. So on July 8th of 1878, he married Clara A. Lovering of Alton, New Hampshire. On the 28th of January 1887, he bigamously married Murda Z. Belknap in Minneapolis, Minnesota. They had a daughter named Lucy. He filed a petition for divorce from his first wife after marrying his second, but never became final. He married his third wife, Georgia Yoke, on January 9th of 1894. Oh, I keep wanting to say 1894. He was also the lover of Julia Smith, the wife of Ned Connor, one of his trusted associates. She later became one of his victims. Ooh. And then Kerry Sanders says, I've read a fair amount of about Holmes. Seriously sick genius. Yeah. For him to have made that House of Horrors he had, yeah. That's pretty sick. And that's pretty genius too. So he managed to secure the Chicago pharmacy by defrauding the pharmacist and built a block long, 3-story building on the lot across the street and called it that building the Castle. And it opened as a hotel for the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. And then Aka says otherwise. Uh, Otherwise is in here. Oh, let's wish a happy birthday to Otherwise. Happy birthday, man. Um, so basically, he built this motel, and if you guys remember, there, the American Horror Story was based on H. Holmes's House of Doom. Well, I call it the House of Doom, but anybody else can call it whatever it wants. But it was based on his House of Doom or House of Horrors. Then plus it was based on other events too and stuff. So he made that and then opened the hotel for the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893. The bottom floor of the castle contained shops and top his personal office, and the middle floor a maze of over 100 windowless rooms. Over a period of 3 years, Holmes selected female victims from among his hotel's guests and tortured them in soundproof, escape-proof chambers fitted with gas lines and permitted Mudgett to asphyxiate the women at any time. Holmes repeatedly changed builders to ensure that no one truly understood the design of the house and he had created who might report to the police. Once dead, the victims' bodies went to the chute to the basement where they were either sold to medical schools or cremated and placed in lime pits for destruction. But and then that's where the song from Macabre comes, goes, them bones gonna rise again. All right, let's see who else is here. Donald Ledford, hello. Uh, Nadine, hi. Uh, Calvin, hey, what's going on, man? Hey, no worries, Calvin, no worries, man. And then Akash says, that sounds a lot like the experience we had at the 17th door this weekend. Ooh, really? How scary was it? So, following the World's Fair, Holmes left Chicago and apparently murdered people as he traveled around the country. He was arrested in 1895 when he was discovered with the body of former business associate Benjamin Peitzel and three of his children. It was a blast, and I can't wait to go again. Awesome, awesome. Oh, hi, Donald. What's going on? Um, so the same year, Holmes Castle in Chicago burnt down on August 19th, revealing the carnage therein to the police and firemen. His habit of taking out insurance policies on some of his victims before killing them may have eventually exposed him regardlessly. The number of Holmes victims has typically been estimated between 20 and 100. Whew, that's high. And even as high as 200. These victims were primarily women, but included some men and children. Oh, that's bad, man. Why the hell? Holmes was put to trial for murder and confessed to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto. And 6 attempted murders. He was hanged on May 7th of 1896 in Philadelphia. It was reported that the executioner had finished all the preliminaries of the hanging. He asked, "Ready, Dr. Holmes?" To which Holmes said, "Yes." Don't bungle. The executioner did bungle. However, because Holmes' neck did not snap immediately, he instead died slowly and painfully of strangulation over the course of about 15 minutes. Ooh, man, imagine that, having to die slowly like that for 15 minutes. Ugh. And then we have Channel 9 saying that this has always been a fun subject. Sorry. Definitely a good one for the spooky season. Yes, it is. It is. And then Calvin says, Indianapolis, it's 50 miles north of me. Oh, okay. Dang. Then Channel 9 says, they did that on purpose because the hangmans were pros. Oh, yeah. That had to have been done on purpose. So, um, oh, Okay, Head Herman Edward Herman Webster Mudgett, better known under the alias of Dr. Henry Holmes. Oh, okay. I think I got a repeat here. Oh, early life. Okay, I got it. Mudgett was born in Gleaming. Wait a minute, that's the same stuff. Sorry, guys. I'm repeating myself here real quick. Okay. Here we go. This Mudgett was the family descended among the first settlers to the area. He grew up with a father who was strict. Disciplinarian, he was often bullied as a child. He claimed that as a child, he had been forced by other students to view and touch a human skeleton after they found out about his fear of local doctor's offices. The bullies had initially brought him there to scare him, but instead he was utterly fascinated. Herman Mudgett graduated from the University of Michigan Medical School in 1884. While enrolled, he stole bodies from the school laboratory, disfiguring the corpses and claiming that the people had been accidentally killed. Mudgett collected insurance money from policies which he had taken out on each one. After graduating, he moved to Chicago to practice pharmacy. He also began to engage in a number of shady businesses, real estate, and promotional deals under the name H. Holmes. On July 8th of 1887, Holmes married Clara A. Lovering of Alton, New Hampshire. Okay, yeah, we heard of all those. Then it says, the family of three resided in the upscale Chicago suburb of Willamette. Although Holmes spent most of his time in the city tending to business, he filed a petition for divorce from his first wife. Okay. And then Carrie says, he had his bodies buried super deep, like 3,000 pounds of concrete to keep them from getting dug up by the curious people out of vandal. Oh, wow. They buried his body that deep? Wow. And then Roots Blue Red says, whoops, accidentally on purpose set that house on fire. Oh, right. Right. They didn't particularly like somebody. Intentionally, they made them choke to death rather than having them snap their necks and breaking their what? The hyoid. So yeah, back to what I was saying. Let's go to a commercial break right now, first and foremost. So roll that commercial.
Well, gentlemen, perhaps we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't said to ourselves, just go, 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 go for it.
Final score for this film, we're going to give it 3 paws out of 4.
La Señora de la Santa Muerte, Spanish for Our Lady of the Holy Death. Out now!
Oh, sex and violence!
Hi, everybody. I'm Akash.
And I'm Free Sexist Diamond.
And we are Roots Bleed Red on Psycho Bunny Death Cult.
Aha!
In fact, humans have a very long history of eating each other.
So lock your doors, turn out your lights, and join us for Cool Radio.
you beautiful people out there. It's your boy Sloopy. And when I'm not guzzling down gallons and gallons of amazing ice cream, yes, oh, I love ice cream. Oh, hang on. I'm watching PBDC TV. Now, back to the show, all you beautiful people. And remember, stay nasty.
All right, we're back. So back to what we were talking about, the Chicago and the murder castle. So while in Chicago, Holmes came across Dr. E.S. Holton's drugstore. It was located on the corner of Wallace and 63rd Street in the neighborhood of Inglewood. Holton was suffering from cancer while his wife minded the store. Through his charms, Holmes got a job there and manipulated her into letting him purchase the store. The agreement was that she could still live in the upstairs apartment even though after Holton died. Once Holton died, Holmes murdered Miss Holton and told people that she was visiting relatives in California. As people started asking questions to when she would be coming back, he elaborated a lie and told them that she loved it so much in California that she decided to live there. Hey, Tia. So Holmes purchased a lot from across the drugstore where he built the 3-story block-long castle, as it was dubbed by those in the neighborhood. It was opened as a hotel for the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893, with part of the structure used as a commercial space. The ground floor of the castle contained, aside from Holmes' own relocated drugstore, various shops, a jeweler, for example, while the upper 2 floors contained his personal office as well as a maze of over 100 windowless rooms, with doorways that would open brick walls, oddly angled hallways, stairways to nowhere, doors that could only be opened from the outside, and a host of other strange labyrinth constructions. Holmes had repeatedly changed builders during the initial construction of the castle to ensure that only he fully understood the design of the house that he created, thereby decreasing the chances of any of them reporting it to the police. So, and then we got Jokey the derelict. He says, "Well, damn, I had like 15." Oh, wow. Technology hates me. Yeah, I think technology hates all of us, man. So over a period of 3 years, Holmes selected female victims from among his employees, many of whom were required to, as a condition of employment, would take out a life insurance policy for which Holmes would pay the premiums but also be the beneficiary. Lovers and hotel guests would torture and would torture and kill them. Some were locked in soundproof bedrooms fitted with gas lines that permitted him to asphyxiate them at any time. Some victims were locked in a huge bank vault near his office. He could sit and listen as they screamed, panicked, and eventually suffocated due to the fact that the vault was soundproof. Most of them have a reason. Then my OCD. Oh. The victims' bodies went to a secret chute in the basement where some of the meticulously dissected stripped of flesh, carved into skeleton models, and then sold to medical schools. Holmes also cremated some of the bodies or placed them in lime pits for destruction. Holmes had 2 giant furnaces as well as 2 pits of acid, bottles of various poisons, and even a stretching rack. Through the connections he had gained in medical school, he was able to sell skeletons and organs with little difficulty. Holmes picked one of the most remote rooms in the castle to perform hundreds of illegal abortions. Some of his patients died as a result of his abortion procedures, and their corpses were also processed and skeletons sold. So now we get over here to his capture and arrest. Following the World's Fair, with the creditors closing in and the economy in a general slump, Holmes left Chicago. He next appeared in Fort Worth, Texas, where he had inherited property from two railroad heiress sisters, one of whom he had promised marriage and both whom he murdered. There he sought to conduct another castle along the lines of his Chicago operation. Oh, construct, I meant, not conduct. However, he soon abandoned his project, finding the law enforcement climate in Texas inhospitable. He continued to move about the United States and Canada. While it seems that he continued to kill, the only bodies discovered which date from this period are those of his close business associates and three of his associates' children. In July of 1894, Holmes was arrested and briefly incarcerated for the first time for a horse swindle that ended in St. Louis. He was promptly bailed out, but while in jail, he struck up a conversation with a convicted train robber named Marion Hedgepeth, who was serving a 25-year sentence. Holmes had concocted a plan to blick an insurance company out of $20,000 by taking out a policy on himself and then faking his death. Holmes promised Hedgepeth a $500 commission in exchange for the name of a lawyer who could be trusted. He was directed to Colonel Jephthah Howe, the brother of public defender. Howe found Holmes' plan to be brilliant. Holmes' plan to fake his own death failed when the insurance company became suspicious and refused to pay. Holmes did not press his claim. Instead, he concocted a similar plan with his associate Pitzel. Pitzel had agreed to fake his own death so that his wife could collect $10,000 policy, which he was to split with Holmes and a shady attorney, Howe. The scheme was to take place in Philadelphia with Pitzel. Should he set himself up as an investor under the name B.F. Perry, and then be killed and disfigured in a lab explosion, Holmes was to find an appropriate cadaver to play the role of Pitzel. Holmes then killed Pitzel. Although some have argued that Pitzel, an alcoholic and chronic depressive, might in fact have committed suicide, forensic evidence presented at Holmes' later trial, however, showed that the chloroform was administered after Pitzel's death, presumably to fake suicide. Holmes proceeded to collect on the policy on the basis of the genuine Pitzel corpse. He then went on to manipulate Pitzel's wife into allowing three of her five children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, to stay in his custody. The eldest daughter and baby remained with Miss Pitzel. He traveled with the children through the northern United States and into Canada. Simultaneously, he escorted Miss Pitzel along a parallel route, all while using various aliases, lying to Miss Pitzel concerning her husband's death, claiming Pitzel was in hiding in South America, as well as lying to her about the true whereabouts of her other children. They were often separated by few blocks. A Philadelphia detective had tracked Holmes, finding the decomposed bodies of two of Pitzel's girls in Toronto. He then followed Holmes to Indianapolis. There, Holmes had rented a cottage. He was reported to have visited a local pharmacy to purchase drugs which he used to kill Howard Pitzel, and a repair shop to sharpen the knives he used to chop the bodies up before he burned them. The boys' teeth and bits of bones were discovered in the Holmes chimney. In 1894, the police were tipped off by former cellmate Marion Hedgepeth, whom Holmes had neglected to pay off as promised for his help in providing Howe. Holmes' escape ended when he was finally arrested in Boston on November 17, 1894. After being tracked there from Philadelphia by Pinkertons, he held on an outstanding warrant for horse theft in Texas. As authorities had little more than suspicion at this point, and Holmes appeared poised to flee the country in company of his unsuspecting third wife. After the custodians for the castle informed the police that he was never allowed to clean the upper floors, police began a thorough investigation over the course of the next month, uncovering Holmes' efficient methods of committing murders and then disposing of the corpse. A fire of mysterious origin consumed the building on August 19, 1895, and the site is currently occupied by U.S. Postal Office building. The number of his victims has typically estimated between 20 and 100, or even as high as 230, based upon missing persons report of the time, as well as the testimony of Holmes. Neighbors who reported seeing him accompany unidentified young women into his hotel, young women whom never saw exit. Okay, let's see. Remember, folks, if you're going to commit a huge amount of murder and insurance fraud doesn't steal horses. Good one. So the discrepancy in numbers can perhaps be attributed to the fact that the great many people came to Chicago to see the World's Fair, but for one reason or another never returned home. The only verified number is 27, although police have commented that some of the bodies in the basement were so badly dismembered and decomposed that it was difficult to tell how many bodies there actually were. Holmes' victims were primarily women and primarily blonde, but included some men and children. So now we get to his trial and execution. While Holmes sat in prison in Philadelphia, not only did the Chicago police investigate his operations in that city, but Philadelphia police began to try to unravel the whole Pitzel situation. In particular, what had happened to the 3 missing children. Philadelphia detective Frank Geyer was given the task to find out. His quest for the children, like the search of Holmes' castle, received wide publicity. His eventual discovery of their remains essentially sealed Holmes' fate, at least in the public mind. So, Holmes was put on trial for the murder of Pitzel and confessed following his conviction to 27 murders in Chicago, Indianapolis, and Toronto, and 6 attempted murders. Holmes was paid $7,500 by the Hearst papers in exchange for his confession. He gave various contradictory accounts of his life, initially claiming innocence, and later he was possessed by Satan. His facility for lying has made it difficult for researchers to ascertain any truth on the basis of his statements. On May 7, 1896, Holmes was hanged at Moyamensing Prison, also known as the Philadelphia County Prison. Until the moment of his death, Holmes remained calm and amiable, showing very few signs of fear, anxiety, or depression. Holmes' neck did not snap immediately. He instead died slowly, twitching over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead at 20 minutes after the trap was sprung. He requested that he be buried in concrete so that no one could ever dig him up, dissect his body, as he had dissected so many others. This request was granted. On New Year's Eve, 1910, Marion Hedgepeth, who had been pardoned for informing on Holmes, was shot and killed by a police officer during a holdup at Chicago saloon. Then on March 7, 1914, a story in the Chicago Tribune reported the death of former caretaker of Murder Castle, Pat Quinlan. Quinlan had committed suicide by taking some sort of foreign object, I'm going to say. And the paper reported that his death meant the mysteries of Holmes' castle would remain unexplained. Quinlan's surviving relatives claimed that Quinlan had been haunted for several months before his death and that he could not sleep. Well, guys, that's my show for today. I hope you enjoyed. And don't forget, stay out of the ordinary.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, and when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.